Esteemed partners, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, good morning or good night wherever you are joining this live stream from other parts of the world, and of course a wonderful good day to those of you sitting here in the audience at the COP27 side event Meeting Climate Targets through Circular Bio-Based Solutions for Plastics, Chemicals, Energy and Agriculture, which is organized by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO. My name is Stephan Sicars and I'm the Director of Circular Economy and Environmental Protection Division in UNIDO, and I will be your host and moderator today. As you're all aware, climate change is the biggest threat to a sustainable future. Addressing the climate challenge presents a golden opportunity to promote prosperity and a brighter future for all. In today's side event, we will discuss the crucial role that bio-based industries play in enhancing climate resilience, safeguarding the environment, and protecting biodiversity, while fostering economic competitiveness and creating decent jobs. This is in line with that is UNIDO slogan of progress by innovation, solutions for people and planet. I'm honored to be joined here on site and online by a distinguished group of panelists. Together we will discuss practical experiences from developing and emerging economies as well as industrialized economies with regard to innovative, circular business models and technologies, and showcase ways to maximize the return on biological resources for the production of sustainable bio-based alternatives to fossil fuel-based energy, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, building materials and agricultural inputs. Before giving the floor to our distinguished panelists, please allow me to briefly share some insights on the circular bioeconomy and its contribution to climate resilience and sustainable development. Promoting a bioeconomy that has sustainability and circularity at its heart holds the promise of producing high added value bio-based products, sustainable local inputs for industrial processes, sustainable sources of energy, and overall providing a triple win of economic growth and societal well-being while mitigating greenhouse gas emissions, natural resource depletion, and environmental hazards. Wow, everything in one go. We see the circular bio-based economy as a powerful tool for protecting the environment and meeting our climate change targets, for restoring degraded soils, strengthening local manufacturing, substituting imports, and promoting exports, and finally attracting new investments and creating local jobs, and that not only in urban but also in rural areas. Many countries in Africa, Asia, Europe and the Americas have realized that and have therefore developed dedicated national strategies for bioeconomy and biotechnologies development. Egypt is no exception. Under the leadership of the Ministry of Environment Egypt, together with the national and international development partners, has been exerting efforts to foster a just transition to a circular bioeconomy. To mainstream and upscale those efforts, Egypt is currently developing its first ever national bio-based economy strategy, which aims at maximizing the return on biological resources with a focus on biomass residues such as crop residues, animal manure, etc., and the industrial crops, non-food, non-feed crops, for the sustainable production of energy, materials and chemicals. As UNIDO, we are happy to be supporting the timely development of such an important strategy through our project Inclusive Green Growth in Egypt, thanks to the generous support of the government of Switzerland and building on the work previously initiated by the Ministry of Environment and our sister agency, the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP. While on the one hand we are working together with Egypt's policymakers On the other, we are strengthening the capacities of green and circular startups and micro, small and medium enterprises to seize the golden opportunity the circular bioeconomy presents to modernize their operations for competitiveness, circularity and sustainability, and all of that we will discuss in the course of today's panel. According to the analysis done in the framework of the development of Egypt's bio-based economy strategy, we have estimated that advancing bio-based industry in Egypt would result in capturing a market opportunity of $54 billion annually and improving Egypt's trade balance. This is in line with the vision and the objectives of the government of Egypt and the aspirations of the Egypt private sector. We will indeed hear soon from our panelists about circular practices successfully implemented on the ground by private sector firms and research institutions in Egypt and other countries like South Africa. There, the project for support for transitioning from conventional plastics to more environmentally sustainable alternatives is, thanks to the generous support of the government of Japan, in progress. And here UNIDO is partnering with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research to develop an action plan for the development of the local, sustainable and biodegradable alternative material industry, and to strengthen capacities of the collection and recycling system in collaboration with the plastic and packaging industry. I hope key benefits of a just transition to the circular bioeconomy will be showcased by hearing from our panelists today, which I would now like to introduce. And if you allow me, panelists, I will introduce all of you in the first round up front, just to give an impression of whom we are having here. And to my left is my old friend, Mr. Ali Abu Sena, the CEO of the Egyptian Environmental Affairs Agency in the Ministry of Environment. In his current position and in the previous one as director of the Egyptian National Cleaner Production Center, he has been leading the process of design, formulation and implementation of several programs and projects, mainly on resource efficiency and cleaner production, eco-industrial parks, green entrepreneurship and renewable energy, among others. Next to him is Mrs. Mikal Harari, the Deputy Head of the International Cooperation Office at the Embassy of Switzerland in Egypt. Switzerland's cooperation program 21 to 24 has a special focus on greening the economy, underlining the shift towards environmental sustainability. Among others, Switzerland is engaged in the energy, waste and water sectors and contributes to addressing the climate challenge, building the resilience of vulnerable systems, and promoting sustainable development. My third panelist joining us online is Mrs. Maya Joan, who is the principal researcher of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research in South Africa. She's leading, is she visible there? No, not yet. She's leading the pilot production of alternative material from agro residues, in this case sugarcane biogas, and produced biodegradable material for single-use plastic products. We will hear more from her later. Then we have Mr. Ahmed Gaber, the Emeritus Professor at Cairo University Chemical Engineering Department and the Chairman of Chemonics Egypt Consultants. He leads a multidisciplinary team of experts and provides specialized consultancy services in several sectors including water, waste, renewable energy, industrial resource efficiency, bio-based economy, entrepreneurship, and MSME development in Egypt and in the MENA region. I would also like to welcome Mr. Ahmed Radi. He is the founder and CEO of Egimac Biotechnology Company, an innovative firm producing black soldier fly larvae as a protein source for animals and organic fertilizer. He started his journey with breeding black soldier fly in 2016, moving from the lab to commercial scale. Then we have Mr. Ehab Usama, the co-founder and CEO of Chitosan Egypt, where he combines his expertise with a passion for waste valorization and technology development. The company has grown in a few years to be a leading facility to mass manufacture chitosan from shrimp waste. Last, but definitely not least, on the very left, Mr. Yuka Kantola, the founder of the World Bioeconomy Forum. He has broad experience in woody biomass, and in the past years he has been involved in facilitating new biorefinery ventures. He founded the World Bioeconomy Forum in 2018, which has become one of the major platforms for the circular bioeconomy. And now I would like to hear from our distinguished panelists today, and would like to start first with Mr. Ali Abosena, with a request to all of you, please, to stand to 10 minutes or less, and then we hopefully have some time for questions from the audience. So the first question: the Ministry of Environment is leading the development of Egypt's first ever national bio-based economy strategy, which I have mentioned. How does this strategy contribute to Egypt's climate resilience and sustainable development objectives? And could you please quickly outline the main features of it?
Thank you, Stephan, and it's nice to meet you again, and I'm happy to be with this session. And I would like to confirm the importance of the bio-based economy to Egypt. It's something that very crucial for developing countries to move towards the bio-based economy. It has been showing over the last years, even after Corona and what's happening worldwide, that there is a need for green recovery again, and especially for developing countries, that they have to look more at their national resources, available resources, and they have to work more on the bio-based products, which will be an edge for them to move towards resilience, adaptation with the climate change impact. The Ministry of Environment was really very progressing in this, established what they call the Biogas Association. And this is Biogas Association or Bioenergy Association, was mainly has been established as in collaboration between the ministry and the NGO to establish, as this is very strange issue, to establish a government is establishing an NGO to just promote the economy or bioenergy economy in the country. This is a very fantastic model, have been supported by the Ministry of Environment in collaboration with UNDP. They established many years ago the Bioenergy Association. One of the targets of this association to promote bio-based economy, and it started with, of course, with the biogas, turning the waste from cattle and sheep and cows to bioenergy and energy and fertilizers, and this was a very successful model. And then we were thinking how we can really upskill this, how we can go for other type of waste or bio-waste, and design a framework strategy for the country to move forward for bio-based economy. And this was very crucial because right now in this, and a message from COP27, there is a need to go more with more adaptive solution, more innovative solution, not more mitigated solution. And this a very important issue in this draft strategy, that focusing on what is the potential bio-based products that we can really got in Egypt, how can also increase the employment and job creation for young entrepreneurs to work on such type of bio-based products, which will have eventually a great market. The first one that will reduce the pollution load, creation of product market oriented, and of course will creation and enhance our economy. This is why we call it bio-based economy. So it's by the end, it's a business opportunity. And if you look at the structure of the strategy, they did a very strong analysis to the type of the waste or bio-waste that could be really turned to business opportunity, starting from agriculture waste, other type of agro-food waste. And this is the first time that we gather all this type together. We have a national strategy for agriculture waste. We have national strategy for construction and demolition waste, other type of waste, but to have something related to the bio-based waste is to go further with more products. This is a very unique issue. We really we are supporting it. I think this is give us the opportunity more to work on the implementation phase. So this is the draft which have been, I thank you very much for the inclusive green growth project supported of course by the Swiss government. Actually we are as a Ministry of Environment part of the steering committee. This is something I think it's a very important, matched with what we are doing here in COP27, looking for more innovative solution and adaptive solution, going more for adaptation project. And I feel such type of project, it's under the adaptation projects. So this is what we, today in the negotiation, we are calling for a global goal for adaptation. So such type of strategies and implementation of this strategy will enhance globally, going more with the global adaptation target. So I would say that this is was a very important output to get this business opportunity clear in terms of bio-based chemicals, bio-based plastics, bio-based detergent, bio-based. It's a lot of products that we need really to reach the entrepreneurs, industry, to take it more for implementation. So I think this is a very important step, and we are happy that this is this has been done. I'm sure we'll need a more step to take it forward with more implementation plan, the governance that will be we will do. I feel this is something like a first step, will be more discussion how we can really introduce it to the government, because I feel this strategy has to be implemented by different ministries and engaging the private sector, entrepreneurs, NGOs in implementation of this draft strategy. And again, it's a very important, and I feel that this is something of the our way to cope with the climate action that we all aiming in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I would like to continue with a question to Michal Harari. If you could, thank you. How does Switzerland support developing and emerging economies in fostering a just transition to a more green and circular economy, and specifically a circular bioeconomy?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Michal. I'm from the Swiss Embassy here in Cairo. It's a pleasure to be again on the panel with the esteemed colleagues here. Thank you very much for having us. So indeed, as you may know, Switzerland is a country with not much raw materials, and we have been engaged in circular economy since the 80s, having also reached some progress, especially in waste management, so closing the loops in waste, but still there is a lot to be done, especially also on construction material and also on the bio waste. maybe some few words on what the experience has shown with the different engagements on the circular economy. So one thing is important, that actually promoting circular economy is always needs a bundle of measures. So we work on trainings, on awareness raising, and also to create linkages between businesses, between policymakers, and also to financial institutions, because of course there's always a need for financing also. Again, it's a multi-stakeholder approach that we need. So we work with different market actors, the consumers, the producers, the businesses, but also educational institutions that have a large knowledge. So we try to promote the approach of circular economy in developing and emerging economies. And to do interventions as described by the esteemed colleagues here, for example, through the Inclusive Green Growth Project here in Egypt. So we work in many countries, but Egypt is a very good example to show that we work on resource efficiency and cleaner production on one side, but as mentioned here also on the agriculture waste and how we can better valorize the agriculture waste, working with businesses, local businesses, also young businesses that just start their work, and also doing the same, linking them to financial institutions, linking them maybe from the local level to the central level, so they have they can scale up their activities. So all these are examples how we support the circular bioeconomy here in Egypt. We also work on other topics that go into the larger green economy. We support green financing. We do, as explained before, work on the eco-industrial parks, on green buildings, and we also do more capacity building work on a grassroots level, raising awareness on green topics at universities, in environmental clubs, with students in schools. So it's a broader engagement that goes towards a green economy, and yeah. Maybe that's just a short introduction to what we are doing here in Egypt. And I would like to thank you again, colleagues from UNIDO and also the ministry, for the very good collaboration. I think we went quite far for IGG, and we look forward to continued collaboration. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Michal. And I would like now to thank you very much for moving the microphone to actually Mr. Ehab Usama, who has actually brought Chitosan Egypt to a very significant growth in the very past few years, and that in a very nascent market for Egypt. How did you manage to develop a circular value chain around your waste-based fertilizers and pesticides, and how did you establish your position in the market?
Okay, first I'm very happy to be with you in the panel. Let me give you a brief about me and the company first. Chitosan Egypt is a biotechnology company which specializes in manufacturing a raw material from shrimp shells called chitosan. Chitosan is a natural material which can be used in more than 240 applications through several industries like medical, pharmaceutical, water treatment, agriculture, paper, plastics, and so on. Our first market, it was the agriculture. We make organic pesticides and fungicides to substitute chemicals and to turn the conventional farming way into organic way with higher efficiency and lower cost. This is our first market, and we are going to penetrate the new market, which is the biodegradable plastic, by the first quarter of 2023. So this is about the company. Actually, I know might be everyone here knows well how to establish a business, how to penetrate a market, how to create a business model. So this is not the point I'm going to highlight. I'm going to highlight a challenge, or I can say the challenge. There are many challenges faced startups in Egypt. We can say the team building, the business model, the financial modeling, and all of those stuff. But there is one challenge. If it exists, you will not find many ways to work around it, which is the legalization. The legalization part, or this specific challenge, causes 7 biotechnology startups, which I personally know, offshored their company outside of Egypt. I can say that we export. We as Kaituzan Egypt, we export to South Africa, Saudi Arabia, and to the Europe. But it took us about 4 months to register our products in the EU. So now we are EU certified, 100% organic, and 0 PHI, and all of those organic stuff. And it took us in Egypt 2 years trying to register our products in the Ministry of the Agriculture. And eventually, we couldn't. And eventually also, we already registered our products under the chemical umbrella, which I can say we lost the organic feature, which is for sure on papers, which is the most important thing in our business. So the problem is here is the law of the organic registration is ready since the beginning of 2021, but it just needs to be signed. So I don't know what's the problem actually. This is the problem I'm going to highlight today because it's not only about Kaituzan Egypt, it's about the ecosystem itself. Many startups cannot register their products, and by the way, I need to explain by every single order that we export what is the situation. For example, when we export, I already supplied or provided the organic certification, which is from the EU, and we did the origin of manufacturing, which is from Egypt, which is chemical. So the customer simply got confused. What is the situation here? So in every single export order, I need to explain what is going on. So this is the main problem startups, I can say the biotechnology or the organic startups face in Egypt. And it's very simple to be solved. And also this will put Egypt in a very, very new level. So I hope that answers that question, but I needed to highlight the problem.
That partially answered the question. Nevertheless, I would like to, before leaving you off the hook, I would like to come back to and ask you, so what brought you actually to work on this particular issue, meaning that source, you know, taking the shells, where did you get them and why did you actually, like what brought you to starting a business here? Because you know, you can, if you're investing into startups or if you're doing startups, there are 10,000 ideas, but why did you pick this particular one? And how could you actually get it having traction with your export markets? I mean, if you needed 2 years to get a license in Egypt, okay, but it means that for a long time you have somehow sustained your business on something. Maybe you can briefly explain, or not so brief, medium briefly, how you did that.
Okay. First of all, I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm not a biotechnologist. I'm not chemical. So it all starts with the passion of recycling and waste management. We found a huge amount of waste, of shrimp waste in Fayoum, which is someplace in Egypt. So I thought about how we can, you know, get the most benefit from it. Searching how to use it, I found that Kaituzan can be extracted from shrimp shells, but at the same time, you do not have, there is no manufacturer in the Middle East, even in Africa, since we started in 2016. So what is the problem? The problem was to scale it from the lab into commercialization, which is mine, the production line. So it started from there. After that, we, you know, developed the business model. We started with a B2B to supply or provide the raw material for the companies to use it in their products. But because of the lack of the R&D in the companies here in Egypt and also in the Middle East, we started to develop our own products in our lab. Then developing the business model from B2B into B2C. Actually, we faced a very, we can say a very important or very huge problem in the market, which is the awareness. They have a concept of any organic product in the agriculture sector specifically, it must be very expensive. I have to use much of it to see real results, and after all, it's not efficient. So finally, we solved those problems in our products, and in the first year in the market, we did not say that our product is organic or natural. We sell it with the function. We give the farm an average of 44% yield increasing, totally natural, with a 7.3x ROI if he just compared the yield increasing with the cost of the products he put in his land, or in his farm, I'm sorry. So this is how we started, and our vision, next steps will be penetrating the biodegradable plastic, substituting the single use, and we're still on the same vision, I can say, the feasible solution to substituting the single use plastic. I hope that answers.
That was, thank you very much. It does actually, in many ways. And it also gives a very interesting introduction. Maybe we come back to that later, to the challenges which are awaiting people who want to introduce new concept into agricultural markets due to the inherent conservatism in agricultural markets. That is a well-known fact. There's probably no more conservative market than the agricultural market. Out of good reasons, farmers bet their whole livelihood on the yield of next year, so they cannot afford making major mistakes there. But anyway, maybe we can come back to that later. I would like now to invite Mr. Ahmed Radi. He is a great, also interesting example how the private sector can bring circular economy solutions to the market. It's okay. Filling major gaps in the manufacturing of key inputs. Can you tell us how IGIMAC is filling such gaps in the market and how that contributes to climate resilience and to development, actually? Please, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for the invitation. I'm Dr. Ahmed Radi, founder of IGIMAC Biotechnology. We made and making a renewable protein for next generation. We working in a strange industry and hot topic industry today's. We are the first MENA biotechnology insect-based company. We breeding with passion our black soldier fly and its larva and producing from it protein. It's an insect protein source and organic fertilizer. This is a big market. Animal protein, by 2050 we need to double the protein production. We will reach to 9 billion people on the earth. We need to double our animal production globally. Here in Egypt, we facing many troubles in scaling up. We do our homework in breeding, rearing, manufacturing. Also, we register some of our products in EU. But the market, it's very huge market here in Egypt. We consume about 10 million tons of feed annually to feed poultry and fish sector. Also, the current situation in supply chain and the new supply chain situation globally need to produce local protein and local source of protein for animal and agriculture. Also, the added value of our innovation is using organic waste. We use all organic waste, pre-consumed and post-consumed organic waste to added value and transforming it to protein and organic fertilizer. This is the issue. We have here in Egypt more than 50 million tons of organic waste dumped. Also, we need to added value on organic waste, decrease the CO2 emission and greenhouse gas emission. IGIMAC is struggling here in Egypt and MENA region to scaling up. I mentioned we need to reach in production annually more than 400,000 tons of insect protein to reach about 5% of Egyptian animal feed market.
Thank you very much. So, being an engineer, I always have technical questions. Apologies. So, do I understand correctly that essentially your feed is the organic waste, right? Any organic waste, or do you need to sort or somehow clean it before other processes involved prior to your flies actually eating up, growing and multiplying?
Actually, we not use a fly. We use a larvae of fly. This is, and we use the power of nature. The larvae of the fly eating any organic waste without making any zoonotic disease for human, any greenhouse gas emission. We didn't make any added value or something of preparation for organic waste. We're using a single stream organic waste. From 1 year, we make a study, EGMAG team make a study collecting the manufacturing and facility which made in food manufacturing in 17 industrial area, and we found the huge amount of waste from and food industry. Now we working on it, single stream organic waste. We use all organic waste type. Our larva can consume it within 14 days. It's and make a organic fertilizer in 14 days versus composting in more than 50 days.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. I'm still computing, and while I am computing, let's hear about South Africa. Mrs. Maya Joan, you are producing, I hope she's online. You are producing packaging material that can be used as an alternative to conventional plastic utilizing agro-waste residues. For plastic pollutions, one of the main issues is, of course, plastic's persistence in the environment where it's leaked, not so much how it is manufactured. How do you see the benefits, risks, and challenges of using agro-residues as an alternative material to plastics? And I hope, yes, you are online, super good. Floor is yours.
Thank you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Am I audible? Hello? Hello? Am I audible?
Hello?
Yes, you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you very well.
Okay, all right. So thank you, UNIDO, for the invitation. And I'm Dr. Maya John. I'm Principal Researcher at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research in South Africa. And one of our research focus areas is on waste valorization and development of bio-based products for replacement of conventional single-use plastics. Now, we usually work with post-harvest agricultural waste residues. So these are the residues that one obtains after the crop is harvested. So these typical examples are bagasse or maize stover. We also work with industrial waste residues like sawdust. So the advantages of waste biomass is that it is bio-based. So it's a form of renewable carbon. It's not a competition to food crops. And these waste residues, are not really waste. They comprise of valuable materials like cellulose and lignin. Now, from a South African perspective, we have a thriving agro-based industries such as the maize industry, which is the largest in Africa. We've got about 14 sugar mills, and sugar industry is one that is keen on producing a diversified product portfolio. There's the macadamia nut industry. We are one of the largest producers of macadamia nuts. And in all these industries, after the crop is harvested or produced, there's a large amount of waste. And most of this waste is dumped in landfills or incinerated. So it's a valuable resource which is severely underutilized. So at the CSIR, how do we beneficiate this waste? So basically there are two ways to utilize waste and develop novel products. And one is to use it as a filler in biopolymers, or, as I said, because this is a valuable source of materials like cellulose, one can extract these materials and then further develop value-added products. And of course, these products need to meet with the technical specification of the product, of the plastic products that are in the market. So at present in South Africa, all the compostable products used for packaging are imported. So when we develop materials using agro waste, we are increasing the local content, reducing both carbon footprint and the final cost of the product. And this is leading to the development of innovative biodegradable products for import replacement, and in the long run can create local bio-based industries. Now, I did mention that our focus is on developing biodegradable products. So a popular misconception is that a biodegradable material will biodegrade as is and anywhere, which is not true. So if you dispose of an industrially compostable product in your garden, you're just going to add to the plastic litter problem. So you need to test for biodegradation of materials in different conditions, like in compost, soil, water, and also test the time frames of biodegradation, like how long does it take to biodegrade. And at the CSIR, we now have the biodegradation testing facility, which was donated by UNIDO and the Japanese government, and we are able to do the testing of different types of materials. So this facility is not just to support our R&D, but it is also to validate the claims of compostability for all products, imported products in Africa. Because we know there's a lot of greenwashing that happens. A lot of products get imported and are claimed to be biodegradable without any certification. A lot of banned products like oxo-degradable plastics, which are in the process of being banned in Europe, is flooding the African markets. So I'd also like to add that while our core business is on developing materials from renewable resources, the long-term impact of our research will lead to solution to waste plastic problem, reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, and mitigating climate change. But again, one must not think that biodegradable materials or compostable materials are a blanket solution to waste plastic pollution. One needs to have multiple steps. Even in the beginning of a product life cycle, you need to design for circularity. You need to increase recycling rates. You need to have proper waste management practices. If you look at the recycling that's happening, if you look at global stats, it indicates that only 9% of plastic waste is recycled. And those products that cannot be recycled because they are lightweight or they're contaminated with soil, like mulch foams, or food, like food packaging cartons or biomedical waste. Those products can be replaced with compostable plastics, where the end-of-life option is organic recycling or composting. Did you ask me about the challenges?
Yes. Challenges
Yes, so,
almost more important than things which worked well.
You see, the thing with bio-based materials, so these are novel products, especially when you use renewable resources like agro-waste and so on. So it's almost like a disruptive industry. So the most important thing is that we need government legislations, environmental legislations that is supporting the shift from conventional fossil fuel plastic industry to a bio-based industry. So if you look at globally, if you look at some of the legislations that works, for example, in the packaging industry, you've got bans on single-use plastics, and which I think has been implemented in 23 countries in Africa. In the automotive industry, it's all about reducing carbon footprint and lightweighting of the vehicle. So there are legislations like end-of-life directive, which is supporting recycling. You also have fuel economy standards and reducing carbon dioxide emissions. So that is also helping the shift towards greener materials. Even in aerospace, you have programs like Clean Sky Initiative and also regulatory rules like REACH. So Clean Sky Initiative is about greening of aircrafts and also looking at reducing the environmental impact of materials used in aircrafts. Additionally, one also needs a lot of governmental support and also incentives, subsidies, tax rebates for companies that are producing these bio-based products, so that it's like an encouragement for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would like to go back to our panel here on the actual panel and to Mr. Ahmed Gaber. So we have heard about different circular bioeconomy solutions spearheaded by private sector firms and by research institutions, just such as CSIR. Biomass should preferentially be turned into products that have the highest value added and that, from a climate change perspective, act as the longest carbon sinks. In your views, how can we derive more value from biomass while contributing to climate resilience?
I think the core of the question is how. Because we know that in Egypt, we have about between 50 to 100 million tons per year of biomass, mixed biomass, different. And the margin between 50 to 100, because we don't know. Then we are just guessing that it might be between 50 and 100. In Europe, they are talking about converting 100 million tons per year to bioproducts. In the United States, they have a big program for 1 billion ton per year of biomass. We got to know about beautiful initiatives for shrimp shells in Fayoum, or black fly soldiers somewhere, and we know that there are other initiatives in Upper Egypt using the banana tree waste and dates in Aswan and all. But the thing that we can see that bio-based economy is not national, or something that you talk about it nationally. It has to be local. You have to talk about Fayoum or Damietta or Aswan. Then the first question is to know what each region or governorate own of biomass. We did an inventory, we need a mapping, and there are methods that have been tried in different parts of the world, how to assess what you have of resources, including agricultural residues and other resources. Then you have to, in planning, or even before the planning, in developing a strategy like what Dr. Abu Senna referred to, you have to know other resources, because we know that in bio-based economy, you need biotechnologists. How many qualified biotechnologists, senior biotechnologists or technicians that we have in Egypt? Or how many certified laboratories that could be used to certify the product that this guy is producing? And what kind of regulatory system that we have that would allow the registration of a bio-based product, specialty chemical or biocosmetic, to get the certification? Then I think what I'm saying, for any country or any region to flourish and utilize the biomass, you have prerequisites. And I can say that some of those prerequisites, it is either or. You have it, you can proceed. You don't have it, you wait. You need to understand what kind of biomass resources, what kind of human resources, what kind of R&D support that you can get, laboratories, regulatory system that can support you, how much, to what extent the private sector is willing to join, to what extent the government is willing to support, and because there are always high-risk projects. In any country that will shy away from any high-risk projects and leave the private sector alone to struggle, we will never do it. But in many countries, the governments will jump in and make available programs and money to mitigate the risk, so as the private sector will be able to go to the bio-based economy sector and produce. Then I think, to summarize, we have now a strategy, and this is national level strategy. We need to do plan, and the planning in bio-based economy has to be local level, not national level. And on the local level, we have to know what kind of resources, what kind of objectives, and what kind of strategies. Because in Europe, you have done it over maybe 20 years. When there is no shortcut, then we have to realize that it will be a 10 to 20 years kind of plan. We have to make it series of 5 years plans. We have to measure the development and the achievement of the private sector and the governmental support, in each 5 years plan. So at the end of the day, we join the club of bio-based economy worldwide. We are very much behind, because we know of countries like Malaysia, South Africa, that had taken very good steps towards the transition to bio-based economy. And I think the beginning is to own a strategy. The second step is to own set of plans on the local level, and then to go to the execution. And without the big support from government, I think the achievement will be very slow.
Thank you very much. Since we have a few minutes, and if you allow, I would challenge that a bit. Well, maybe challenge is the wrong word, but Mr. Usama has demonstrated how in an, let's say, not entirely friendly regulatory environment, and without a plan underlining this, he has come up with a way to, he has recognized there is an unused resource, a waste, and he came up with a plan, with an idea, not with a plan, with an idea how to monetize that resource for him and for others, and how to make. Now, this seems to me, what you were saying and what Mr. Usama was presenting at what happened, seemed to me pretty much antipodes. You have on the one hand the entrepreneurship, which sees an opportunity and seizes it despite challenges in the regulatory and support environment. And you have on the other hand the planned approach that you're suggesting, which might move actually more towards actual planning. So it's a bio-based economy, right? So I would simply assume, not entirely correct, but that would be referring to an economy with entrepreneurs and everything, not planning. So how would the element come in that a lot of things cannot be planned? They have to develop, particular industries and economies and companies have to develop on someone's business idea and business model, which is something that the government or government-initiated processes like planning can, I would say, probably not 100% anticipate, and where it's tried, maybe not always very successful, did in the past. So how do you see these two? Well, how much planning do we need and how much initiative?
Yeah, I think those two beautiful stories, I have 20 more stories as beautiful. We know about it because they are with us, and we are lucky to have them with us and tell us their stories. But there are fantastic stories all over. Private sector, young men and young women in Egypt, they do miracles, but without any support from the government. They struggle. We have so beautiful stories, but this will never make a national development. This will be, we will enjoy listening to the stories, but that's it. That's it. This is the end. But we will never be in a position to export tons of biocosmetic or bioplastic to Europe, or to establish ourselves as we are the pioneers in the MENA region, in certain area that we have a competitive edge, and we can. And many countries have done, something like this. Then all what I'm saying, those guys should be supported in the industrial zones in Egypt. They should be like 50 acres somewhere, and we encourage building a cluster of bio-based economy, and the government should pay the consultancy fee of a cluster development agent who would support those guys in a cluster that is in somewhere East Delta or North Delta. And we know that this is the cluster with a specialization in converting certain wastes available in this region to something. Let me just give you something. I believe that in this country, that if we grow 100,000 faddan of cactus, tin shoki, and 100,000 faddan of castor, and we build 2 industrial zones, one for castor and one for cactus, we will make an increment improvement in employment and in development with all the KPAs you can talk about. And this is the kind of fast-track development that the literature talks about. There are so many normal track development that countries do, and everyone is looking for a fast track, a rapid kind, or whatever. Ali can tell me the name of going fast. And this is the way to do it. In my opinion, bio-based economy for this country is not a choice. It's a must. Because we don't have so many options to make development, and most of the product could be exported. And in the same time, we have tremendous impact on the environment and the climate, etc., etc. It is a recipe for real sustainable development. But to listen to those stories, that's really great.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Your appeal towards large and sustainable and environmentally friendly development couldn't have come closer to my heart. And I would also, I see entirely your point. Maybe I want to add something to it, a minor issue. Maybe climate change has also to change our perspectives vis-a-vis incentives from governments, where in the previous times we might have been doing without and saying, okay, it develops over time organically and meaningfully, industry will develop, another one not, it's relatively fine, it's equal. In the time of climate change, when we have industries which are actually can contribute substantially to mitigating or adapting to the risks of climate change, then it is probably worthwhile to revisit the issues of support to these industries, even beyond, letting only competition play out. But having said that, last but definitely not least, the circular economy, bioeconomy on a global level. And many countries and regions around the world have put in place strategies and plans to foster such a just transition. Can you, Jukka, share with us insights on efforts being made at the global level, and what are the issues which are emerging from that?
Yeah, with the pleasure, Stefan, and thanks for your introduction and very exciting question you are posing on me. And first of all, I'd like to thank the UNIDO on this opportunity to come here and tell in what's about the bioeconomy in a global level. Maybe a few words first about that. Okay, what's the World Bioeconomy Forum? Actually, I'm the founder of it, together with some co-founders from Indonesia and from UK. This initiative took place 2018. That we thought that there need to be a global platform where the issues related to bioeconomy can be discussed and we can learn from each other. And the first, let's say, conference we organized, it was in September 2018. So this is now the 5th edition. We think that our mission is that, to enhance and facilitate the circular bioeconomy, and we do that worldwide. And how do we do that? We are organizing the events related to the bioeconomy, where we are asking the stakeholders of the bioeconomy to tell in their story, to tell in their narrative, as we heard today. But we are doing that very systematic way. We do have a 4-pillar system by which we are always evaluating the status of the bioeconomy. So we are organizing this kind of public event. You are all welcome to this event. Besides that, we do have members, and for the members, we are organizing the membership events, as we call it, World Bioeconomy Circle. And you are all welcome to join that initiative, to be part of that movement. And finally, certainly we are then providing some advisory services on this field, as we are anyhow engaged fully on this topic. But when it comes to your question, what I like to evaluate here a bit, that what's the status of the bioeconomy in terms of the biostrategies? You know, biostrategies are evolving. That's point number one. The second thing I would like to make here is that, bioeconomy, I dare to share, will come one of the major streams in the future. Also in terms of economics. We hear also here good examples, but I will let's say, stop on that topic for a while, because it's always the case when you are building up sustainable economies, they need to stand on their own feet. That goes along also for the bioeconomy. Third point I would like to make here is what was partially discussed here is about bioeconomy's role on climate change mitigation. What does it mean? What type of tools does the bioeconomy bring into this game? It's very typical while we are here in the COP. And then finally, there's more and more discussion. Is bioeconomy enough? It's a matter enough that it deserves to have a global home. There's more and more discussion on that topic. Okay, getting to the first point. Biostrategies are evolving, and what do we mean by it is that today there's already over 50 biostrategies worldwide, national biostrategies, and on top of that, there are also countless number of, let's say, regional biostrategies. It was referred also in this discussion. It's very important that we are having also regional biostrategies. Then you are taking into account local circumstances and how well you are then benefiting these in a sustainable way. It is always a must. On top of that, there are also biostrategies which are sort of accredited biostrategies. Like EU is having the biostrategy, and also there's an East African Union to have it. Let's say combined biostrategies. We need them all. A number of these biostrategies are ever increasing. As we heard today about the bio-based strategy, which is now about to be conducted here in Egypt. So congratulations on this initiative, and I'd like to use this opportunity to invite Egypt to our next roundtable, which will be held on April. So we would like to see you there and like to hear your story. What is your position at that point of time? During the last half a year, there has been several other biostrategies which has been unfolded. For example, Finland. I'm coming from Finland. I didn't say that because of that, but nevertheless, they launched the biostrategy in April, and that was already updated. Originally, they had that from 2014. China is also having a biostrategy. They announced it that in May. So these, let's say, superpowers are very active on this space. East African Union came up with the biostrategy in June, and EU, let's say, celebrated on 10th year. It is actually 10 years, not 20 years. It's 10 years anniversary, and they celebrated that last summer. And also, US came on this, let's say, space by announcing the executive order in September to advance the biotechnology and biomanufacturing. So a lot of things are cooking up in this space, and for the next year, Egypt is there in place. We do know the Sweden is there in place. So all these things are then evolving. Now, when we have a look about the contents, can you drive any sort of, let's say, conclusions on these biostrategies? So I would say so that first of all, the biostrategies are getting more holistic. There used to be a time that you are focusing on the certain, let's say, like the technology, like the biotechnology. It's not anymore the case. You certainly have that, but then it's also that you are having more holistic approach, meaning that you are taking into account also the supply chains, bio-based supply chains. That's one trend. What do we see there? Secondly, there is notions that the biostrategies are getting that direction that they are to do, let's say, more with less. So focusing on the value-added products. That is at least the case in Finland, partially also in the EU biostrategy. And thirdly, I would like to say that these societal matters do account. If you now have a look on this biostrategy in Brazil, para state do have that is a good example. I would then welcome you to visit that. What does it then mean? So the rights of the indigenous people, how we ensure that, and how that traditional knowledge, how to compress that all into this biostrategy. So these are all really important aspects. Now, how do we do in the World Bioeconomy Forum? Someone might say that bioeconomy is complex. It is, but we are explaining that through the 4-pillar structure. That's what I mentioned in the beginning, that we have a systematic approach. It is comparable that if you are in the business world or any kind of organization, if you are driving your strategy, typically first thing to do, what do? You have a SWOT analysis, which is giving you a position that where do you stand? We are having the same for the bioeconomy. We call it as a 4-pillar structure. And within these 4 pillars, we are evaluating the status of the bioeconomy. So it can be measured. And we are repeating these 4 pillars always in our programs. Now, what are then the 4 pillars? The first pillar is about the bioeconomy, people, planet policies. There we are typically inviting the regulators, policymakers, that what are their actions in this field? How do they facilitate the developments of bioeconomy? We all know that's not enough, that you are only ruling out that you should go in this direction. It doesn't work like that. It always requires business world engagement. And that's the reason we have named the second pillar as corporate leaders and the financial world, where we are inviting, let's say, big and small company, heads of them to telling that, what does it mean to navigate in this space? What kind of challenges, what kind of lessons can be then learned? And then the financial world. And then the third pillar is also very important, as people do not necessarily know that well. what do we mean by the bioeconomy? What are the products? So that's the reason we have named this third pillar as bioproduct around us, where we are making showcases that what kind of products and services does this sector provide. And then finally, the fourth pillar, it's more the societal matters like education. What kind of skills do we need? And we have named that as look into the future. And as we are organizing year-long, let's say programs, we are taking the specific theme for each season. This season, we have a theme as World Bioeconomy Forum talks about climate. And that's the reason we are here, because we were learning about that, what does it then mean? What is the contribution of the bioproducts? So that's about the one first message. I have 3 more here. Be patient. So, this the second message what I like to provide, as I stated, bioeconomy, that's my claim. Bioeconomy will become one of the major streams in the future, also economically. Let's say the value of the all global economical activities is $100 trillion. $100 trillion. Now, there is a notion that the value of the bioeconomy will account 1/3 of the all global activities, economical activities. In other words, it's 30 trillion. This is, by the way, the basis for the US executive order. And they say that very loud and clear. And they are working on it. And they are not alone. As we heard here now, Egypt is saying that, the value of the Egypt bioeconomy will be $54 billion. And like Japan is saying that they are now about increasing the bioeconomy value by 50%. By 50% by 2030. So it's everywhere. So this the economics need to be taken into account. The third message I'm delivering here is that what's the role of the bioeconomy in the climate change mitigation? We revisited that topic during this season, and what we can say that bioproducts are not incorporated in climate change mitigation, at least in terms of regulative compliance market, nor voluntary carbon market. Still, like here in this panel, we are talking about bioproducts do account. They are mitigating climate change. But I'm afraid that's only talk, in case it's not written in this carbon market. It's not written into when it comes to compliance, regulative compliance market. So, but how the bioproducts are then, or bioeconomy, to affect on the climate change mitigation? Let's say it's all written now in our annual declaration. I don't read them all. I'd like to make 2 points of that. First of all, when you are making the bioproducts, you are superseding the fossil-based products. So there's a substitution effect.
Jukka, the last time that you make sub-points, you're the third point, you have now 2 sub-points after the second point is okay. Good.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. So the substitution effect. So that is the way. And our proposal here is that when we are talking about carbon credit market, one day it's also our dream that the carbon credits should be adhered also to bioproducts. So it will give a boost for the need of the bio products. Finally, this is my final word. So there's more and more discussion. What I like to share here, is bioeconomy now, let's say, mature enough that is then deserving to have in a global home. We were talking like in this, let's say, panel about what about product acceptances, what about the legislation, and these kind of topics is not only here in Egypt, it's everywhere the very same. And now when we compare this to the role of the bioeconomy in related to climate change mitigation, there is a home for a climate change mitigation, and it's called this COP. as we are here. And it's already that this is not the 27th round of it. And so there is a sort of meaningful convention where the issues are agreed in the global level. And the nations are then following that. And then finally the companies and the individuals, it's having an effect. And then there's also the biodiversity, which is having a COP where the issues are discussed. These are the two older brothers or sisters. The bioeconomy belongs to the same family, but it doesn't have a voice yet. So that's the reason that this will be then discussed. So with these words, with these 4 points, that is then the status of the bioeconomy. So thanks, Stephan. Do you have more questions?
No, I just actually I do. First, I would like to thank you for closing so nicely with back to the conference that we are at. Secondly, I first wanted to ask whether there are questions from the floor, any, or actually from the audience, if these can be brought to my attention. See no one raising his arm and waving. Very good. Then I'm actually coming. I would like to throw a question back, and actually maybe to Dr. Gava. Now we just heard from Jukka Kantola a picture where 60 countries in the world, I believe 60 was the number, were doing strategies. And you actually hinted towards a certain competition. When I'm meaning Egypt has to go forward, not to be the last, not to lose, which is a competitive aspect, right, internationally speaking. Is bioeconomy now not only a coming topic, but such a hot topic that we have a race who is the front runner, or does it leave us still some time to develop it carefully and with some patience? How hot does the topic of bioeconomy actually become? When I'm listening to the two of you, then I have the feeling we are all too late, almost. Except that the whole world is too late, so not so dramatic, but still.
In Egypt, there is efforts distributed among different ministries and the private sector for green transformation. I think the big title will be green economy. Then this is why I'm sure there are so many panels around talking about renewable energy, greening the transportation, greening the tourism sector like hotels and SHARM to be more green. A lot of movement and efforts to make green transformation. Okay. But green transformation is not bio-based economy. The big field is green economy, green to green. Then there is a sub-sector, sub-part of it will be the bioeconomy. And in the bioeconomy, there is which is bio-based economy. The bio-based economy is the industrial part of the green economy. Then I would say the government, different government, even including, I'm talking about Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation, Ministry of Utilities, Housing. Everybody is talking about making it greener because this is a trend worldwide. But the money making is bio-based economy. This is where you get, you know, you have products, you have industry. And in my opinion, that in this country, what will make the difference in the development is the industrial sector. We can do a lot in agriculture and in tourism and Suez Canal and whatever. But what will make the real difference in this country is industry. And we are very much behind. And since we are struggling to do industrial growth, it makes sense. Why not to make bio-based? Since we are struggling to make, for example, cars, we are going talks about hydrogen, whatever. It will. This is why I think Dr. Ali Abu Senna this is his role, is to bring in the bio-based economy in the equation. Otherwise, we are going to go again scattered in all directions, and we are not going to make the increment, development, real revolution. Okay, and we have the resources. We have a lot of resources, but very underutilized. Our biomass resources are not only underutilized. Actually, in the case we are producing a compost that should not be applied to our land, then actually we are doing the reverse of what we should do, to use the biomass to produce like solid fuel, and to use the agricultural residue to produce by compost. We have to fix so many things.
Thank you very much. Now, with the strategy that we have, I mean, that Egypt has, I include myself at the moment, but that's of course not entirely correct. How far are we on that way, and how will the future look like?
Yeah, thank you. I was just listening for all the reflections, and I would just would like first to say, yeah, as Dr. Ahmed Gaber was mentioning, there's a lot of scattered success stories have been done on the country. I mean, this is to be honest, yeah. I mean, when we were thinking about our request to work on this, it was like a government request. We see a lot of success stories. Ahmed Hussein was a lot. He was working with a lot of entrepreneurs. I am happy to also listen for the 2 case studies that we have been discussed. But the issue that we would like to have more or less view and gather all of them under national strategy. Maybe they were facing this because they were just individuals. I mean, they are not part of a national movement. I mean, this is the idea that we would like to bring all those that they are working in such topic for bio-based. I'm very pretty sure a lot of studies has been done by UNIDO, World Bank, by Clean Production Center about a lot of existing case studies and potential, like agro-food sector. We're working with the African Development Bank in the project of Waste Exchange. We determined a lot of huge possibilities and a lot of success stories that have been done, but not materialized to be on a more national level. So, looking for the future, it's a very good step that we already have an initial framework for a strategy. We have to play a role to make it more at action ground. So this is why I started to say we need to have set up a governance for this strategy. How we will move forward and introduce it for the all line ministries to work to this. This is not a Ministry of Environment only. We have to work with other Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Irrigation, Ministry of Industry, that they are the supply side. You have to be the supply side for such technology. Work with the Ministry of Industry to give lessons to the gentlemen how they can work in this. So we have to find a more, it's just giving a guidance overview how we can go for the future, how we can work. But the most important step that how to turn this to action plan. This is what the lesson we learned from. We have several strategies have been made for waste management, for solid waste management, for construction and demolition waste. But for future, I would say to set up a very governance way for putting this forward. Leading ministry could be Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Environment, but we have to work with the other ministry and put a clear action plan for such a strategy to be implemented with a time framework, with the whole support, as Dr. Ahmed was speaking. We need technical support, we need financial support, we need for those gentlemen to be working in industrial zone, to be legalized, to be not having a problem in the custom. It needs some more marketing from their side, because this is also one of the challenge. You have to have marketable product. So it's your role also to start marketing this. It is something we are like the government is just regulator, facilitator, but also it based on the intelligence work that they are doing. As have been also mentioned, we have several companies are working and exporting. Maybe it is not in the chemical sector or bio-based chemical. It's more or less sensitive. It needs some of the approvals. Not like, for example, as Dr. Ahmed mentioned, there's a very unique company working turning the waste of banana to cartons, and there are also a lot of alternative, like they are sealing, they are exporting outside Egypt. They are not facing any problem in this. Their problem only that they have to find a way to make their prices more or less competitive with the conventional one. And this is a market set. We can't interfere. They have to. Maybe the one of the issue. I would just to tell also everyone, the Egyptian government has taken a decision to give green incentive for innovative products. One of them, the bio-based plastics. It's one of the categories that if you are starting this technology in Egypt, that you will be taking some free taxes and reductions prices of the land that you will use. And I'm happy to tell you that now on the ground under construction, it's a big industry for another new of plastic, but it's coming from the calcium carbonate. It's one of the very natural material here in Egypt. So they will produce plastic bags. I will not call plastic, but from natural base. I think this was a very innovative. I myself and Dr. Tariq, the WIMRA director, have been signed agreement in the front of the Prime Minister to start this product very soon in Egypt. So a lot of activities. What I would like to say that many initiatives has been done, many scattered cases, but we need to have like a good governance, action plan for implementation, involvement of all relevant stakeholders to ease the way for such type of innovative ideas. This is what I would like to tell from my side. To continue to be able to compete, we have to be innovative. Innovative based on our national resources. This is the way how we can turn on. So it's a good that we are not. Yeah, we start. Of course, we were behind, but at least we are starting right now. Thank you.
And thank you. With a great thank you to the panelists, which were great. I would like to do some very few closing remarks. This is a climate change COP. And I think what we should not forget when we look at the climate change impact of bioeconomy is what is the impact of what we are possibly replacing with our products. We had the example today, I'm coming back to that, of chitosan, first time that I heard ever of it. And I'm sure whatever the energy is involved and the emissions in producing fertilizer out of it, it's almost certainly massively less than producing fertilizer in the conventional way. And massive means massive. So this is where actually the gains are in terms of climate change, not only by permanently locking carbon in carbon sinks, but also to a large degree by avoiding the need to produce products, similar products in use in other ways, which might be in many cases hugely carbon intensive. And this is, I think, a very important outcome of bioeconomy and one of the reasons why we are sitting under this particular roof. And then, of course, as we said, it adds value to undervalued resources or to waste. It develops new skills and creates new jobs in these companies. And this is what the last 20 minutes of discussion were about. It was about economic opportunities. We moved away from discussing environment. We moved towards discussing economic development. So this is what is in it. And what is in it is really to therefore combine environmental protection at large and one of the most important topics, which is the climate that we have on environment, and development in countries like Egypt, where development is still massively needed and so many more people will benefit from it. And with that, thank you again very much to my esteemed panelists here and as well as in South Africa. Thank you very much to the team who prepared that, if I may say that, to the technicians behind, and of course to you listening here online and who stayed here despite the fact that it's 6:30 or in the meantime 6:40 almost, and a lot of you will have opportunities to have dinner somewhere. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful evening, and hope to see you soon somewhere else.